Colonel Alan West. Good morning, sir.
Good morning to you both, and good morning to the listening audience. It's a pleasure to be with you.
It's nice to be with you, too. You know, we've been told again and again here as a bunch of Tea Party types that we're a bunch of racists because we have a problem with Obama. I want to know, when are you running?
Well, I did a nice 7-mile run yesterday, and I'll try to get another run in today. But, you know, the most important thing is to win this congressional race because it's this liberal progressive legislative agenda that we have to stop. We've got to make things different in Congress, and that's my focus right now. And, you know, if God has some greater plan, then, you know, I'll have to answer that call. But for right now, it's about being a representative.
Well, let me ask you something, because Jim brought up the Tea Partiers. You actually spoke at a Tea Party demonstration. Were you in Washington, D.C., or did you do it in Florida?
Well, I've done about 5. And, yeah, I've been Jupiter, Fort Lauderdale, Naples, and I was up here for the 9/12 rally. I spoke with the Freepers, the Free Republic people.
I thought so. I was there, too. And, you know, one of the things that you said recently was that you have been called a sellout.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, can you believe this is happening? I mean, this is so unfortunate and almost unfair, really.
Well, that's what happens when people are afraid. Because, you know, when you take someone like myself, I was born and raised in the inner city of Atlanta, Georgia, and all of a sudden I get off of their 21st century plantation. I show that I'm able to independently think on my own and come up with my own principles of governance and philosophy, which is conservative. That's threatening to them because they cannot allow this voice to get out. And so what do? They they go to the typical liberal attack dog tactics, the Alinsky tactics of calling you a token, a sellout, an Uncle Tom, and various and sundry other things. And you just have to press on through that.
Well, you know, it's interesting. That really is consistent, though, with the left. With the left, when reality conflicts with ideology, it's reality that has to be changed.
Yes.
That's why Alan West all of a sudden gets very pale when he starts talking about conservatism. They literally come out. I mean, I remember they called, the Texas senator. She was a woman. They now called her a female impersonator. All of a sudden, you're not black anymore because you don't subscribe to the ideology that has been assigned to that group.
Well, I don't subscribe to the ideology of victimization. I don't subscribe to the ideology of the proprietors of poverty, as I call them, the Al Sharptons, the Jesse Jacksons. You know, I believe not in the collectivization of the American people. I believe in the empowerment of the individual, and that's something that really does cause them concern because the next thing you know, if you start to lose individuals off of that black electorate voting block, if you start to get voices that are contrary to a President Obama that, you know, really have an American story and also it's about the policies and procedures, you take away this whole thing that they're trying to base it off of race. It has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with ideology and philosophy of governance. That's what the Tea Party is about.
Well, you know, it is about that. And, you know, it was funny because I did a Tea Party here in Pittsburgh, 3,000 people. Now, while on stage and those helping to put the Tea Party together, I would say about a third of the people involved in that process were African American. So that was awesome to see us, you know, to have that great a number represented in the whole process. In the crowd, not true. And then weeks later, I was part of the National Day of Prayer at the same location, and we had a wonderful showing of both. It was probably 50-50. And when I spoke, everybody was agreeing. You know, everybody in there was agreeing with what I said, and I thought, why can't we? It was okay for them to show up for that, which I think is fabulous, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But what is holding us back? How do we bring more of the black community into the movement? Because they're there. Look, there's 32 people running for Congress right now.
You took the words out. Yeah, you took the words out.
Go ahead.
Well, that's one of the critical things. You have 32 blacks that are running on a Republican ticket. And you brought up an interesting point. You know, back in 2008, when you had the same-sex marriage amendments in Florida and California, they both failed. And a lot of people didn't realize the main reason they failed because you drove the black community out in such numbers. The black community is very socially conservative. It's just that we have to get them to understand the fiscal conservative aspect. We have to get them to understand is that, you know, as the government continues to demonize or create more victims and they become more dependent upon government grows. And that is what's causing the drying up of our economy. Look at what's happening in Greece. And if we continue continue to expand this entitlement class here in the United States of America, the exact same thing is going to happen here. We have got, contrary to what Al Sharpton is saying out in Arizona, the biggest threat to economic growth and jobs for the black community, where the unemployment rate is just astronomical, is this situation with illegal immigration. So we have to get the voices out there to bring that to the black community. And, you don't change your message. My message is limited government, lower taxes, individual responsibility and accountability, national security, free market principles, traditional values, and true principled leadership. And those are the type of standards that you should talk to any community, because those are American principles. And I think that's the most important thing that we have to do. And people will come to that message.
Okay, will they? Can we expect more and more growing numbers? Because I know that those 32 black Americans that decided to run for a seat this election term, those people have even gone to the Tea Party members and said, look, we were looking for your endorsement. We actually agreed, just like you said, we agree with your platform. We are so happy that there is a black president, but he doesn't represent us in any other way, except for, being black. What can we hope to see larger numbers turning out? Will they feel more comfortable showing up at the Tea Party demonstrations, getting more involved?
Well, I think they will, because, like you said, the Tea Party movement is a movement of the conscience of the American people. It has nothing to do with race, color, sex, creed, any of that stuff. So, it's about going back and understand the principles of the fundamental principles of this country, the Declaration, the Federalist Papers, the Constitution, all the things that makes us who we are. And the point is just getting that message out to people and staying on message, staying on principle, and not trying to say a different message to this group or a different message to that group. But, and that's why I don't get into the Big Ten, the inclusiveness and outreach stuff. It just has to be a principled message. And I think it'll be very interesting to see out of the 32 of us that are running in this cycle, where the success comes. But at least you will have created a breach. At least you will have allowed people to start thinking. And the fact that the New York Times wrote a front page piece about 32 black Americans running on the Republican ticket is an incredible shock to those people on the liberal left.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Well, look, you hate to call people un-American who are American citizens, but the philosophy of progressivism is the exact opposite.
Yeah.
The genius does not emanate from groups. It comes from individuals.
That's right. That's innovation and ingenuity comes from the individual and investment. And that's where you're going to have your long-term economic growth. And the thing is, it's not so much calling people un-American. It's that the principles and ideas that they're putting forth are the antithesis of what made this country great in 233 years. And I think that's what has enabled us to be successful in our campaign. That's the message that we're stressing is, this thing about, nationalizing production, creating and expanding the welfare state, or as I call it, the entitlement class. Those are the type of things that we have to get away from, because that did not make America great in 233 years.
No.
And so that's what we have to go back to. And this whole idea of having a social utopia where, you can have economic and social justice. You look at the NBA Finals right now. There are 4 teams left. How many teams are there in the National Basketball Association? 2 teams play for the national championship in college football. 64 teams go into the NCAA tournament. That's competition. That's what America is based on. There's always going to be someone that does come out at the top. And that is what makes this country what it is. That is what makes it so incredible when you look at all the other countries around. I don't want to see America fall into the trap of the European socialist economic model, which we see collapsing right now.
Well, look.
Can you stay? I want to ask you a question. Do you have a couple of more minutes? Could you stay through a break with us?
Sure.
That would be. Why don't we take the break and come back?
I got a question for him, too.
Also, I just want to know one thing. When is your election in Florida?
Yes, the general election in Florida is the 2nd of November, 2010. And if people like what they're hearing from me, please go to www.gowest2010.com.
Okay, all right. I guess I knew that. Now, what about your primary? Did we miss that? Have you won that? I'm sorry, we don't know that.
Well, what happened is that we've got a young man that all of a sudden decided that he was going to register as a Republican in March. No one has ever seen or heard of him, and I don't know who he is. is. But if he wants to come out and be a primary challenger, that will